So this is the little frog that is in my fish tank. He doesn't have a name. We couldn't come up with a name for the frog, so his name is just Frog. So this is SpongeBob's house, and there's Patrick and there's SpongeBob. Why are they laying that way, you might ask? Apparently when I put them in the fish tank they were standing upright, and I guess Chaz and Bubbles, my goldfish, don't like SpongeBob and Patrick, so they whacked them, and this is the end result. Poor Patrick and SpongeBob. This is Chaz, the orange goldfish. The white goldfish back there in the back, his name is Bubbles. Now Bubbles got his name because of the little bubbler I have inside the fish tank. When he was a little bitty baby fish, he would purposely, and the frog would do this too, but he would purposely go over to the bubbles at the very bottom of the tank, swim into the bubbles, and float right up to the top and swim out. Then he'd come back around and do it again. He liked it so much I decided to call him Bubbles. Now Chaz got his name from Katrina and Harvest Moon. They named Chaz. Don't know why they named him Chaz, but his name is Chaz. And there's their little dragon ornament. Now I originally had 6 fish in here, and 4 of them died, and I had to bury them. And I didn't flush them down the toilet, I actually buried them in one of my pots. But the very first ornament I had in here was this cup. It was the only thing I had in this old fish tank when I first got it. Well, the next thing was this dragon. And when I put the dragon in here, the fish all decided to go over here. All of them at one time in the cup, squished together, hiding from the dragon. Well, eventually they got used to it, and of course, as you can see now, they swim around it all the time. Of course, there's a little cave. It glows in the dark. So anyway, the real reason that I wanted to show you my fish tank is because I have a semi-aquaponic system going on here. This little tubing that you see in the back is a water lift system, or a water intake tubing system. It goes up. You really can't see it too well because I got to clean the algae off my tank. Anyway, it goes up and out of the tank. Tube goes around over here behind this pot. Goes around the pot. You can't see it because it's down behind there. It comes back out right over here. So how do I get the water from the fish tank into the pot? Well, like this basically. Now, hopefully I won't drop this in the water while I'm trying to show you guys, but I'm going to be really mad. But anyway, there is the water intake tubing right there. But essentially it goes up and out of the tank. Now, there is another tube where the air is injected. It goes in this top tube right here and around and back up. What I've got here is a diagram of the air lift system that I have going on in my fish tank. Alright, what you see here, these little circles, these things right here are little suction cups that fit to the side of the glass inside the fish tank that holds the tube in place. And these little things here are the little clips that the tubing fits into, so that I could direct the tubing in whatever way I wanted it to go. Now this tubing down here is the water intake system. Okay, with the fish tank being filled up to a certain level, the tube is also going to have water in it up to a certain level. And this tubing is the air injection system. The end of this tube actually goes to the air pump that pumps the air into the tube and out. The end of this tubing over here actually goes into a self-watering pot. So that's where the water ends up, it's in the bottom of the self-watering pot. So when we've got air that's being forced into this tube right here, it's going to come out right here in this little hole inside this tube, and it's going to force this water up the tube and around and into the pot. It's going to be sucking the water in from back here as it does that, provided that the water's at a certain level. If the water's too low, then there's a good chance that the air is going to come back down out the back of this, and you're just going to have a bunch of bubbles popping up this way. So you need to keep the fish tank pretty full whenever you do this. So how I made this, I actually had some tubing that I bought at a local department store, and cut it down to the sizes I needed, sizes and lengths. And this one here didn't need any special adjustments or anything. It's just one tube that is in little suction clips in the tank. It goes out and is routed down into a hole and to the pot. That's all I had to do with that one. Now this one here is a little bit different. I had to actually rig the end of it right here so that it would force the air into this other tubing. So what I did is I took an air inflation needle right here, kind of like the ones you would see or that you would actually buy in the department store and sports section, so that you can air up your basketballs or volleyballs or whatever. This is the air inflation needle that I'm talking about, like right here. And what this is going to do, it's going to go up into your other tubing, like so. If you'll notice, on the end of this, there are some threads. And unfortunately the tubing was too small to go over those threads, so I had to split the tubing, kind of force it down inside the hole, and I super glued it in place. And then once I got it super glued into place, then I wrapped it with electrical tape. And this was kind of an experiment because I didn't know if in the fish tank the electrical tape would still hold, but apparently it does. It's been in there for several weeks now. And in this other tube, right here, in the water intake tube, had to puncture a little hole in the tube at that point right there. And I basically used a nail to do that. And then once you puncture a hole in the tube, you can actually take the end of the inflation needle and stick it in the other tube. If you look at the end of this one here, there's a hole right here. That's where the air comes out of the tube. Now that hole needs to be inside this other tube so that when the air comes out, it's forcing this water up and around. Alright, now let's see if we can actually take a look in the fish tank. Now, right now, as you can see, I've got the bubbler going. I've got the filter going on over here. This is a semi-aquaponic setup. A full aquaponic setup would actually take the water from the fish tank, put it in a pot, would be recycled in the pot, and come back out of the pot into the fish tank. Well, I don't have the resources to do that right now. So I'm going to show you what I've got going on so far. I'm going to unplug the water filter, and I'm going to unplug the bubbler. Alright. Don't pop some of the bubbles. Alright. As you can see there is the water intake tube with the suckers and little tubing clamps. And it goes around and it goes up. And you can see kind of right there, I hope I don't drop this in the water, where I've got the needle, the air needle, stuck into the other tube and wrapped around with the electrical tape to the air injection tubing. So that tubing goes up and around and goes down. As you can see, it goes down behind the pot, it goes around the pot, and it's going to come up and it goes into the hole right here. Just puts the water in there. And that's all I had to do with that. I mean, I didn't have to do anything special with the ends of this tube. I just basically cut it the right length and suckered it in there and ran it around into the pot. And that's all I had to do with that one. This other one, with a needle in it, as you can see, there's the plants floating around in there. Gotta get that out. Okay, as you can see, I had to fix the end of that one so that it would actually force the air from one tubing system into the other. Now, the end of the air injection tubing goes into this air pump right here, and of course at the bottom of the air pump there's two outlets. This is the outlet to the bubbler, and this right here is the outlet that I plug the other tube into for the air injection system when I need it. Normally I don't need it until this little indicator gets down past the top of this lid here. When it gets down past the top of this lid, I basically just take the tubing and I plug it in right here to where it starts putting the air into the air injection tubing and it starts to do its thing. It's basically a pretty simple setup, and it's not really very hard to put together. You know, I was kind of curious about how difficult it would be when I first started doing this, but it was not difficult at all. I'm actually kind of proud of what I was able to do. It was so easy. But yeah, eventually, when I get the ability to, I'm going to go ahead and try to make a full aquaponic system. I probably have to move some of these shelves off up here and actually put the plants up here so that the water goes into the plants that are up here on this shelf. When the water level gets so high in the pots, it'll be sucked out and recycled back down into the fish tank. Basically, the way that works is when you got fish in the tank, of course they create waste, and the waste that they create actually causes ammonia levels to get higher in the water. So in a normal fish tank, you have to have a filter like this that scrubs the water. It takes the nitrates out of the water and puts the water back into the fish tank so the fish can breathe. But in a full aquaponic system, what happens is the water that has the nitrates in it is taken out of the tank. It's cycled into a pot. Bacteria in the pot actually breaks down the ammonia into nitrates, and there's another type of bacteria that breaks it down even further so the plants can actually use it as nourishment and food. And once the plant takes the nitrates out of the water that's in the pot, then the water that's been cleaned and scrubbed by the plants gets cycled back into the fish tank. It's clean water. The fish can breathe and everything's good, and the cycle starts over again. Fish tank to pot to fish tank. That's basically the way it works. So the plant in this case actually acts as the filter. But considering the fact that I can't actually cycle the water back from the pot into the fish tank yet, I still have to use the filter, so that's why that's there. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of let you know what was going on with that, and there you are.